Hello. One of my favourite flavours early in the year is rhubarb. And here my rhubarb is growing in the little hugulette in the orchard. It also grows perfectly fine in the ground, and the rest of the rhubarb here is growing in the ground. This is rhubarb that I brought from my previous garden. It's temporarily early. I've had it for years. So these are clumps that I took with me from the big clump that I left behind when I moved. And it's a really delicious early rhubarb that just goes on and on and on. So fantastic if you like rhubarb like I do. I love to cook with it and make it into sweet food and also savoury dishes, such as a rhubarb relish, which I make with no refined sugar, just dried fruits. It's fantastic stuff. I will be planting sweet Sicily here with it this year. It's a companion I always grow with rhubarb because the delicious aniseedy flavour of the sweet Sicily, it cuts through the tartness of the rhubarb, and it means you can use a lot less sugar. I like to force some. I've got 2 clumps here, and this one's just going to be left to do its rhubarb thing. This one I'm going to force. Now, fantasy me has one of those beautiful terracotta forcers, but I don't in real life. And also, this is a hill, as you can see, and it would probably just blow away in the next storm. So instead, I am going to thriftily use an old dustbin. It will do the job perfectly well. It just won't look quite so pretty. So rhubarb, cover with the old dustbin, and then I'm putting stakes in to keep it in place because I live on a Welsh hillside. It gets windy, and even when I lived in Somerset, which was quite a contained garden, there was property all around it, so it didn't get too windy there. Even there I did peg it in place because bins do fly off, and if that happens and you've got your rhubarb growing up, then it will just get snapped, and that's really sad. So there's my beautiful glamorous rhubarb forcer, which will hopefully make some delicious stems for me to cook with in a few weeks. And when I do have them, I will show you how to make the wonderful refined sugar-free rhubarb relish, which I absolutely adore. This is the rhubarb that came with the house. It was already here when we moved. And although it's a really good rhubarb, it's looking super healthy, it's right next to my greenhouse, which is in a really shady spot anyway. It's a bit strange position for a greenhouse, but hey, you know, at least I have one. And so what I'm going to have to do is move it, because when it's fully grown, it grows right up the side of the greenhouse and blocks all the light. So I was getting leggy plants in August last year, which is just crazy. It's actually a little bit late for moving this rhubarb because it started to sprout, but I'm still going to have to do it. It got delayed because I had an accident and I banged my elbow, and I've been out of digging action for a couple of weeks. So this is a job for this week. When I've moved the rhubarb, I'm going to mulch it and then leave it. When you've moved rhubarb, it's best to leave it alone and not harvest it for the first year to allow the root system to develop properly, which is fine for me because I've got 2 other rhubarbs. But if it is the only rhubarb you have, you can always sort of nick a few, but don't harvest it as hard as you would do if it was an established rhubarb plant. For any of you who are unfamiliar with rhubarb, it's the stems that we eat. The leaves are toxic, so don't eat those. They get fine in the compost heap, but they're definitely not good to eat. So it's the lovely rosy stems that make delicious rhubarb muffins and rhubarb pie and you can make sweet and sour rhubarb to have as a side dish. It's so versatile for all kinds of delicious dishes. If you don't have rhubarb already, ask around, because it grows super well, and mostly people with established clumps are all too happy to cut off a chunk and give it to you. And then you can plant it in your garden and in a year's time start harvesting your own rhubarb. Alternatively, you can buy it from shops, and you can choose different kinds of rhubarb. So I tend to go for early varieties, but there are some which start cropping later on, so you can have more of a successional sowing. I have found, though, that these early varieties will keep cropping right through to August, so that's fine for me.